Good morning, Sea Pines. This is the May 2025 board meeting, the last scheduled meeting until September. However, while we won't have a scheduled meeting between now and our September meeting, summer is used for workshops and any special meetings if something comes up that needs immediate action. So summer is a time at which we delve into a lot of work issues and prepare to bring forth the closing things that we need before the end of the year. Many of our residents leave here during the summer, and those who are left are primarily full-time residents. And we've all learned to adapt to the timing of getting in and out of the gate. What's the best times? What's the busiest times? What times to go to the grocery stores? What time to avoid the grocery stores? So let's go back to those of us who can remember those from last year. And let's go back to adjusting to those that'll make our life a lot easier. And, you know, I still always have the comment that I think a number of us have experienced when I lived in Chicago. It was nothing for us to travel an hour to go somewhere, an hour back, and be in bumper to bumper traffic and things of that nature. And then when I moved back to a small town in Mississippi, and everything is within 10 minutes of each other, well, traveling a half an hour or more was a trip. And I think that a lot of us who get impatient at the gates are used to and 20 years ago, this would have been a common thing for us somewhere, wherever we lived. And that, but as we've gotten used to the convenience here, it's just something that becomes very annoying. And so I ask you to be patient, start out a few minutes earlier. Remember, these are guests coming in. They're very important to our community. They're very important to the revenue that we need to do the things that our property members need, desire. Our hope always is not, I shouldn't say always. Our hope is that we can get our guests to share the cost of what CSA has to do, and gate passes and rental registration fees and things like that become part of that. We are, well, I'm going to add this. This is totally non-relevant. And so excuse me for, and it's a little kind of personal information, I guess. When I was in college back in 1962, I was on a panel of a convention of Catholic girls' schools to deliver a presentation. And while I was there waiting to my turn, I was standing in the back. And I looked down across the auditorium and I saw two girls talking. And I looked at one of them, and finally she looked back at me. I had one of those experiences that I call the hand of God experiences. I said I was going to marry that girl, and I did not know her. Had not met her, didn't know what college she went to because there were colleges from all over. And we did eventually marry, and we will celebrate our 61st wedding anniversary next month. A number of you may have had experiences like that where your life took certain turns and you don't know quite why, but were urged somewhere. And one of those turns may have been moving to Hilton Head. Some of you locating in Hilton Head. I never thought I would live in Hilton Head. I never thought I'd leave that little town where I was very comfortable. And hell, I knew everybody. And more importantly, I knew everybody's secrets. So it was another change. And to some extent, you know, I regard that as another one of those turns and twists that somebody occurred to me. And it makes life interesting. So I say that with the fact that we all made choices to come to Hilton Head, at least most all of us, and particularly in the Sea Pines in our life here. And I think that my life here, my wife and my family's life here since 1995, when I first placed into now, is that we're living in a much better community. We're living in a busier community with more visitors than we had back then, but we're living in a better community. We're living in a community that has been substantially upgraded. We have spent particularly the last few years working on the meat and potatoes of CSA of the community to make it work. We have been working upon as much as possible on safety, security, streets, drainage, beautification, all of the things which are just meat and potatoes, but it's what makes us happy, what makes us work, and what we need. We live in a community, as well, many of you came from large towns. You know, there are days you don't have to go any further than Pope Avenue to satisfy 90% of your needs. And so it's a different style of life, and at least for me, it's a very, very happy style of life. And I hope you are enjoying, that too. And I hope you're satisfied with that CSA is trying to spend the time to make all of these things happy for you and to enhance our community. Because as we improve our community, we maintain our house values. As we make our community more desirable for visitors to come, we increase the number of potential buyers again. And so all of these work hand in hand. CSA works for the residential property owners, of which there are many different categories, the commercial interests, and the resort. We have to work together to make things work in the best way fashion to improve our community. And so I continue to preach the fact that the unity is necessary, the cooperation is necessary, and that we strive to do that. So when we look on a couple of things that we're going to be doing, we make changes to the code of standards as we hear property owners make comments about those. We try to work out issues sometimes in ways that we, quite frankly, may not be allowed to work out because there's no alternative because of what was done prior to us. And you'll see maybe one of those today. Our traffic consultants are looking at various things to control speeds around some of the streets, and particularly those streets that have more straight and paths where you can, it's more typical a driver will go a little faster when there are no curves or anything else. And we have some people that are concerned in that we have narrow roads. We have narrow roads without leisure paths. We have narrow roads that have to deal with cars, people walking, people biking, and people walking their dogs. So it is some congestion. That's what we inherited. We're trying to make some changes to the extent of where we can in various areas, and we're trying to put enough things in place that will help discourage any unsafe activity to the extent that makes sense. As you know, when I spoke to this at the annual meeting, e-bikes is a concern, still a concern. It's complicated because the town allows e-bikes to come, in the town. The town owns the beaches, so e-bikes can get on the beaches. We got signs up at all the beach entrances. Yeah, could we put offices at all of the beach entrances? Yes. Do we want to put all our money there and take it away from doing some other work like the critical infrastructure or whatever? I know and I hear from people regularly about e-bikes, and as I said at the annual meeting, I have my own e-bikes by my wife, and she will tell me as we go along the streets, every single e-bike, e-scooter she sees. And so I know, just like you do, what's out there. I hear it. You can continue to write me, though. That's not only your privilege, that I will read it and pay attention, because you may have seen something we haven't noticed. But as we notice things, I will tell you that I come back in and talk with Sam, and we do talk about, is there any way to do this, that, or the other? One of the things is we could stop every car coming in the gate that has a bike on it, and we could spend the time going through to verify whether it's an e-bike or not. We can make them open up the back of their vehicles and look inside. Can you imagine what the blockade would be at the gate trying to come in? So how do you do all of this in a reasonable fashion? We're still working on it. It's not an easy answer. All of this material about e-bikes, all of the rules of the community, they're sent to visitors, they're sent to the rental agencies to send to the visitors. And, you know, we can't make people read things. But, you know, we continue to try with every suggestion that we think will work. We'll look and we'll try to implement it. So it's an ongoing process. We wish it would, that there was an ideal solution on all of this, but all we can promise you is that we will continue. And I know that comment I just made now, I'll get at least 3 or 4 comments from certain people that tell me it's not enough, and I'm just sorry. All we can do is what we can do. So with that, I'm going to wish you, those are here, a happy summer here, to join us in the heat. And for those who are leaving to go to cooler areas, I hope you do have cooler areas and enjoy it. And we look for you to come back in the fall and fill the community up with the people who actually own the properties and not just rented them. So with that in mind, I'm going to move through the next item of business is that ratify approval of the Board of Directors meetings of March 18, 2025. Kerry Corbett, as secretary, would normally make that motion. I'll make that motion for him. Is there a second?
Second.
All in approval, raise your hands. Thank you. We had gone into executive session before this, and I did not have the call to reconvene. But since we've started the meeting, we have reconvened. So, okay. My remarks you've had. Sam, you want to make any remarks?
I'm going to save mine for the management report and others.
Okay. So now we'll go down to management reports. Stephanie, you're next on the line on communications.
Yes, good morning. I have some visual aids today. Oh. Oh. Let me get that right here. Okay. So I just want to make sure you all are armed with where you can find things on our website. I know you're out in the community a lot more than I am and may get a lot of questions. So I'm going to start off here with our annual meeting. Our webpage is at cpinesliving.com/annual meeting. And here you'll be able to find our annual report. We put together this pretty great report with operationals. There's finance. Here's a little preview. Going through it all here. You can also scan this QR code. It'll pull up on your phone. As well on this website, you're going to find the treasurer's report that Leanne did and her slide deck. You'll also find the 2024 audited financial statement. So great resource, cpinesliving.com/annual meeting. Be sure to check that out. And then our next thing we have is a board of directors application information. So as a reminder, if you're thinking, how much does this pay? It is volunteer. So we do have 3 Class A residential board seats and 1 Class B commercial board seat available beginning January 1st, 2026. We will be having applications available soon. We'll send them in our weekly email as well as post them to the website at cpinesliving.com/elections. So that's going to be coming to you soon. Keep your eye out. May is Hurricane Preparedness Month in the state of South Carolina. It is looking like it will be an active season, unfortunately. So I just wanted to remind everyone, last year we put together this website called seapinesliving.com/prepare. And I took all the resources from the state, from the county, from the town, put them all on this page. I put information that will be coming from Sea Pines, as well as evacuation information. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop to prepare. I know we get a lot of new property owners from different places in the United States. So if you are unfamiliar with hurricane season, it starts June 1st. Now's a great time to prepare while, the shelves are still stocked and you have the time to talk to insurance and prepare your home. So just a quick reminder on that resource. Our digital and print materials. So even if you don't rent your home, this is a great place to go if you have a lot of family or friends coming to visit. We have flyers, brochures, trolley service information, alligator safety information, the leisure trail map, rules of the leisure trails, forest preserve map, information about that, as well as the digital wildlife guide that was put together a few years ago, and our sea turtle patrol awareness flyer. So seapinesliving.com/rental, pull all these resources off, print them off, they're print ready, send them as links to whoever may be coming to visit. Sea Pines is huge, there's a lot here, there's a lot of information, like no e-bikes. So feel free to jump on that and grab these materials and share them with your friends, your family, and any renters you may have. And last but not least, connect with us. We're on Facebook. So as a reminder, we're Sea Pines Living on Facebook. We're not Sea Pines CSA. So if you're searching for us, you want to go to Sea Pines Living, facebook.com/Sea Pines Living. We have YouTube. So all of our meetings that are recorded, they're there. Our general info box. And then most of what you're going to need on our website is at seapinesliving.com/owner. I am in the middle of doing a redesign as well as a dashboard. So exciting things are coming this year. But for now, check out seapinesliving.com/owner to find out community news, all of our rules, anything you might be looking for as a property owner. And that is my report there, but please let me know if you all have any questions. Happy to answer.
Thank you, Stephanie. Any questions, Stephanie? Any comments? Okay, thank you there.
Thank you.
The next could be community infrastructure. Russell?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I just have a few brief comments this morning as we have multiple construction infrastructure projects going on as we speak. Just a quick update with Harbortown Lighthouse Lane Phase 2. We're making great progress with the project and on schedule, and I certainly appreciate all the cooperation and support from the property owners in the area that are being affected, as well as support from my colleagues to make this project come off on time and so forth as we get ready to wrap it up here in the next couple of weeks. And then we'll be looking forward to Lighthouse Lane Phase 3, which is going to kick off in September and go through the end of the year of 2025 into 2026. Another quick update, Ivy Road Leisure Trail, which we're actively engaged in as we speak, is progressing well. We're paving today, and then we'll move into the other aspects of the project, construction and details over the coming weeks. That project, the Ivy Road Leisure Trail, will connect the Greenwood Gate Leisure Trail across Club Course Drive and down to Governor's Road to provide a much more safer access for bike riders and pedestrians that live in the Club Course area. So another update on the Greenwood Drive project engineering and surveying. We have started the engineering aspect, and that's Greenwood Drive from Plantation to Fraser Circle and Fraser Circle on down to Greenwood and Sea Pines. So we're actively working on that and looking to schedule that work in 2020 in the fall of 2026. Otter Road construction, which involves stormwater and then repaving the roadways in Otter Road. We are currently wrapping up engineering and permitting and slated to start that project in the fall here in 2025 and segueing into the spring of 2026. So those are my updates this morning. I'm glad to take any questions.
Open for questions?
I just want to, again, thank Russell for all his hard work. He's got many plates in the air right now, and he keeps them all spinning. Normally, he would get some time off from doing that this summer, but because of the work in the Lighthouse Lane and Harbortown area, he will be busy this summer as well. I also want to publicly thank Sea Pines Country Club. They were kind enough to work with CSA on the installation of the new trail on Club Course. A bit of that trail had to go on some property that was owned by the country club, and they gave us an encroachment upon that property. And we couldn't have done that trail without their cooperation. So I wanted to make sure I noted that to the community and thank the country club in front of everybody.
Thank you, Ethan. And that work is progressing pretty fast right now.
Yes, sir. The goal was to get it done by Memorial Day, to get them in and out, and Russell's going to hang up here in just a second and go back out to work.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
No rest for the wicked, Russell.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Take care now.
All right, Jared, you're up next for maintenance.
All right. Good morning. How y'all doing today?
Not as good as you.
I hear you. I hear you. All right. Is everything shared okay on your guys' end?
Yeah, we can see it.
All right. Give me 1 second here. I'm sorry. Okay. So I just wanted to touch base on a few of the projects we've been doing since the last meeting. I'll try to keep it quick because it's busy out there and I need to run just like Russell does. So as you can see here as an example, some forestry mulching on ditch banks. When vegetation grows too close to the canal right of ways, it can end up in the water and block key structures downstream, which could obviously cause serious issues. Our maintenance teams need clear, reliable access to these canals, not just for regular upkeep, but also for emergency repairs and debris removal. And in times of disaster, which fingers crossed, I hope we don't get any, that access becomes absolutely vital. So quick response depends on being able to move through the canal system without delays. I want to touch base on some minor projects we did at the front gate this spring. Here's a list of some of the plant materials that were installed. We put a 6-inch live oak in, about 6 pallets of sod, a couple dwarf sable palms, and then 46 smaller plants to fill in some areas. We did put in 60 30-gallon shrubs on mounded dirt to create a natural green screening. And then we also did some structural pruning on some street trees. This is an example of an area where we installed some of the vegetation to help provide screening into the Harris Teeter parking lot. As you can see, we mounded the dirt about 4 feet in this area, and that helps give immediate effect and provide a green buffer to the buildings in the background. The reason this area was exposed, one of these storms, I don't remember which one it was, but we did have a tree fall in this area, and the root ball kind of lifted everything else up with it. Here's another example of some plantings we use with the screenings. This is in lot 1. If you're coming out of Club Course Drive looking across Greenwood, this will help screen that storage facility that's in the background. And again, you can see that 4-foot berm, which helped give additional height. The shrubs themselves are around 4.5 to 5 feet. So we got somewhere around like 9 feet of coverage in that area. Here's this is on Greenwood Drive between Sea Pine Circle and the front gate. You can see where structural pruning took place in these trees in the median. Some of the benefits of the structural pruning is it helps the trees develop one dominant central leader, which makes it more stable and less likely to split or break. Especially in this area, as much traffic as there is, we wouldn't want anything to come across the road and have to shut a lane down. It also helps reduce weak branch angles. Pruning removes branches that grow at narrow angles, which are more prone to breaking. It also helps improve the tree shape and appearance, which will help guide the tree in a more balanced form anyways. And it also promotes long-term health by allowing better airflow and sunlight penetration, which reduces the risk of disease on the trees. And you can see from the before and after photos below or to the right that it allows more filtered light to come through and brighten the area up a little bit. Just briefly, the next two slides are about our buying the pine straw installation that took place in April. Really helped button up the roadsides and enhance the appearance of landscaped areas. And we did approximately 6,000 bales this spring, so it was quite an undertaking. This example of when they installed it in Fraser Circle. This is kind of shifting gears a little bit. This is more facilities related, but this is a before and after photo highlighting recent striping improvements at the CSA administration building. The updated markings were installed to designate parking more clearly and enhance overall safety and accessibility for both staff and visitors. This is an example of some roadway signage that was recently replaced. Keeping our signs up to date not only ensures they remain clear and informative, but also helps maintain a clean and well-kept appearance throughout the area. It's just one of the many attention to detail tasks we believe help set Sea Pines apart from other communities. Here's an example of a couple staff members inspecting and repairing a lagoon gate to ensure proper drainage. Regular maintenance like this helps prevent potential issues and ensures that drainage systems continue to function efficiently. I did want to shift into our lagoon bank stabilization project that we were working on. Just to kind of give a quick update. So we do use a vegetative lagoon bank stabilization approach to help protect shoreline integrity. This relies more on plant material, in this case it'd be grass, to help absorb nutrients from stormwater runoff while also reinforcing lagoon bank to prevent erosion. One of the main causes of erosion along the lagoon bank is this constant lapping of water due to tidal influence and also stormwater entering the waterways. And over time, these subtle waves gradually weaken the saturated soils just below the surface, which loosens it and eventually leads to erosion. Let's see. So here's some before and after pics of the materials we're using. And these are from our contractor. We don't have any after photos yet because the project's still going on. But this is kind of what we anticipate it looking like. So here's some photos from the actual ongoing work. The stakes are cut into proper length and installed every 3 feet, driven a few feet into the ground. This will serve as support for the shore socks material once it's filled in and help create a strong and stable barrier. I did want to mention every one of these stakes is actually hand cut on site. So they get like 12-foot sections, they're cutting them and angling them and then drilling through to get the tie off areas for them. So here you can see the socks material being installed and secured to the stakes. This part is super labor intensive and definitely detail oriented. Requires precise placement to ensure the correct length is positioned in the water, which will allow for a proper slope and then enough fill material to be added effectively. This photo shows socks material tied to the post and ready for the fill material. At this stage, the structure is in place and prepared for the next step, which would be the fill material. So this shows some of the material being installed, which is the current stage of the project. We're still filling areas in at the moment. I'll have some updated photos at our next meeting to kind of show you some of the after to see where we're at. But our next steps are going to be putting sod on the top, making sure the fill is in and everything's secure. I did want to touch base on the lagoon sediment removal project. We're in the early stages, so there aren't a whole lot of photos yet. And also progress was slightly delayed due to last week's weather. But these next few slides highlight some of the work that's taken place so far. This is a before photo, and I don't have an after photo yet, but I will have one. But as you can see, there's a ditch behind all this vegetation here. This is where they just started the work and gives an idea of the equipment that we have out here taking the work. This is what I wanted to show you. So this is some of the sediment that's being removed from the lagoon. If you look further down on the left side of the photo over in this area, you can see where it's cleared out and the vegetation is removed. And then over here, you can see it's just all sediment, which is impeding the flow of the stormwater. So we're really hoping that once we get this out, we'll be able to increase capacity and move water more effectively. And I'm gonna move into community standards. Like I said, I'll definitely have more photos and a better update on our next meeting as the progress continues. Community standards, we've done approximately 377 violations year to date. 32% are landscaping, 19 are architectural, 16 are maintenance related, and about 10% are unsightly. I'm sorry, I did want to mention, for the first time, we've seen maintenance violations drop below architectural violations. We think this suggests a trend towards greater community compliance. It appears that more property owners are willing to make improvements, but often assume the work is minor enough that a permit isn't required. And then I did want to touch base on the stages of some of these violations. Looks like 94% are addressed within initial courtesy notice. About 3.7% are escalated to stage 2. About 1.6% are escalated to stage 3, and about 0.53% are escalated to stage 4, which really highlights homeowners coming into compliance. And sometimes it's just a friendly reminder. Maybe they don't live here full time, or maybe they don't see certain things. So just a friendly reminder, we're letting them know of some of the deficiencies, and 94% of them are addressed with that initial notice. So that concludes my presentation, and I am happy to take any questions that y'all may have.
Yeah, how are our gates gonna be for, the upcoming hurricane season? Are they all operational and in good shape?
So we do have some open work orders with the town. I actually have a meeting with them the first week of June to go over some of the gates they're gonna be repairing this summer.
Okay, try to get them done early enough in case they're needed.
Yep, absolutely. And which also, I mean, we have mechanical ways that we can raise and lower them. Obviously, it's not ideal, but we can do it if needed. And we also have the pumps that we can put in place as needed and where needed. So,
Okay.
David, I'd just like to thank Jared and his team. We had a small event last month called the Heritage Golf Tournament, and a number of folks that come into town once a year for that tournament, that I see then just commenting on how well the community looks and how pretty things are. And Jared and his folks were really hard at making that happen. And, our goal is to make the best first impression we can when our visitors and guests and our property owners come through the gates. And Jared's done a great job of getting those things all aligned together. And I appreciate him and his team and what they do with that. And it's reflected in the comments we get from not just visitors and guests, but also property owners and folks in the community.
thanks, Sam. Appreciate it.
I second that.
Thank you all.
Anything else before we leave? Okay, Victoria, you're next.
I'm going to be very brief. I don't have a PowerPoint or be in the field like the people we just saw. So just two things I want to update you on. One is we are in the 21st century and we are taking credit cards at the gate. So this is exciting. We're not really advertising it, but it's been very, very successful, and the trend is going up. I looked so far this month, the average is about 20% of gate sales are being paid electronically. So the goal here is obviously ease for our visitors, and also to try and reduce those number of turnarounds at the gate, because that's really what causes a lot of the congestion. So I'll keep you all updated as to our progress. Right now, it's just daily visitor, daily commercial, and short-term rental weekly. Those are the only ones that are taking credit cards. We hopefully in about a month from now, we will have all the available gate passes can be paid through a credit card. And also I wanted to update you is we're going to be invoicing for the rental registration program, and that's going to be this week. So look out for those invoices for the property owners that rent their property. Some of my staff have been working on a project to make sure that we incorporate everyone who is renting their home in Sea Pines into our program. upon purchasing and coming in for your orientation, the staff asks you if you plan to rent, so that captures some of them. And they really do a good internet search of just trying to capture all the rental homes in Sea Pines. That is my report, Mr. Chairman.
About where we stand number wise on the rental registration number?
I looked yesterday, 2,229 properties are in our rental registration program. Now, that does include 286 timeshares.
Okay, so it's only about 40% of our residents. Okay.
And again, that's short-term and long-term.
Any questions? Comments? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we now come to finance and administration. If I skip something,
Operations and special.
operation and special projects. Where's David
I don't see
Henderson?
David Henderson.
Stephanie Fair is gonna take David's report.
Okay,
Good morning, I am David today.
okay.
David is out because we're having a burn in the forest.
Oh, okay.
And he has had so few days to do that this is the opportunity. And so as long as Stephanie can cover, you can have the day to go burn the forest.
I'm gonna interrupt. If none of you've seen a burn and interested, it's very interesting to, see what they do and how they do it. Don't crowd them, but you might enjoy going over there to watch it, just to know what's been done and how it's done.
Yeah, and if I can just say, when we first started the burns, it was really for the ecological reasons to try and capture sort of the effects of the forest as it was really intended. But as we've seen the wildfires and things occur across the United States here over the last really 18 months, I think the value in having those materials out is even better for us and just protects the community. So we hope for David to be able to do more.
Okay. All right, Stephanie Henderson.
Great. So perfect. That was exactly where I was going to say. David is right now helping with the prescribed burn that's in progress. So if you're planning going to the Forest Preserve today, Lake Joe and the Shell Ring are restricted access. But I was out early in March. It's the same section, and this is a little bit of it dying down at the moment, but just a little idea of what goes on out there. 2025 Party in the Pines sold out this year, which was awesome. They had about 250 event attendees. We do want to thank our sponsors, which were Lawton Stables, the Salty Dog Cafe, and the Sea Pines Resort. Big thank you to all the property owners who bought a ticket and came out, as well as to our activity sponsors. H2O Water Sports gives complimentary boat rides. Lawton Stables gave carriage rides. And then our silent auction donors and organizers, that's also a great fundraiser for the Sea Pines Forest Preserve. And we also extend our gratitude to the Salty Dog Cafe this year. They really kicked it up. They had rolling food stations. They're pictured here. Tim was nice enough to share some photos with me. And so we definitely want to thank the Salty Dog Cafe for all of their support and providing all of the food and being a great supporter of our fundraiser events. So looking forward to seeing what they come up with the bonfire. And then this is new. We have a Sea Pines Forest Preserve Facebook page. And so we just wanted to let the community know they can follow us. They can tag us at Sea Pines Forest Preserve on Facebook. The Salty Dog Cafe, again, they're going to be doing some promo videos and we'll be sharing them to our Facebook page. So stay in tune with the Forest Preserve, see what's going on. Burn notices are posted there, as well as the Sea Pines Living. So definitely give us a follow if you are on Facebook and tag us in any photos or experiences that you have there. And that is his short and sweet report. I'd say I'm happy to take questions, but I don't think I would be able to answer them.
I'm going to add to it. It's what I said at the annual meeting. That was one of the most positive events that I've seen. People were extremely happy. They were enjoying themselves. There was a lot of conversations going on. There were a lot of new people that were there. It was a great event. And if you've never been, you really ought to go to. That was, as David told me, that was the largest we've ever had. But it was really a great social event. And again, I love going where people are happy. And I guess the food and drink and being out in the forest preserve was very conducive to happiness because everybody it seemed to be in just an exceptional mood. So I recommend it to you next year. Thank you. And then we'll go on to Joe Count on safety, security, and transportation.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. I got some slides to go through today's presentation. I'm basically going to break down, talk a little bit, since we haven't met, the full board hasn't met since the Heritage, talk a little bit about the 2025 Heritage Golf Tournament. Then we'll get into some safety and security, and then talk about some numbers and whatnot, passes and everything at the gates. So I'm going to have Stephanie help me out with these slides. We'll roll through these slides. And the 2025 RBC Heritage Tournament was a terrific success. We had terrific weather. It was a terrific year. We didn't have any major incidents, except when you're a security director, a one-hole playoff can be seen as an incident. We like it to be done in 18, but it worked out that the one hole was done on 18 again. So that was perfect. We didn't have any major incidents. We had a tremendous amount of support from all our state, local, federal agencies. Again, as usual, can't pull this off without them, especially the Sheriff Tanner and the Sheriff's Office for Beaufort County and the South Carolina Highway Patrol really help us out amongst all the other agencies that we depend on. If you look there, our officers wrote 130 incident reports. As you look through that, basically most of them are medical calls and complaints that we get during the tournament, and some intoxication. But we only had one arrest, which was great. And we threw out about 15 people from the tournament, mostly a little too much alcohol with incidents like that. So it was actually a good tournament this year. And excuse me, I just got a message, so I had to zip through that. Anyway, so that's the Heritage. It was terrific. Hope we have another good year. We'll be doing some after action with the Heritage folks this week. We're always trying to improve, address issues, and try to make the following year even better. Real briefly, the trolley for the tournament, it was up this year, especially the red route. That was reflected when I talked with David Kennemar, trolley manager, said that was very heavy. Most of the numbers were up, which shows the importance and people trying to get down to that tournament, get to Harbor Town, and get to other places throughout the island. It was good to see those numbers up. However, we handled it very well. No problems with the trolleys. And we'll go ahead and move on to some of the security, unless anybody's got any questions they want to ask about the Heritage Tournament.
Anybody? All right, Joe, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Let's go into just the security summaries. And those of you that are some of you are on the Safety and Security Committee. If you've seen some of these slides, forgive me, but the full board needed to see some of these, I think, that we just went over last month. So we've had 1,440 total calls for service year to date. And I always try to put in the top 5 or 6. And they are the same. Those top 6: property owner and guest concerns, wildlife and news, activated alarms, parking, gate runners, and 911 hangups. Those continue to be our top calls for service. They amount to about 45% or so of the calls that we get. As far as last year, that's about the same as last year. They're down a little bit, but pretty consistent with last year. Traffic enforcement, couple things I want to point out about this, and this is the first quarter from 2024 to 2025. And what I wanted to point out to the board here is that the tickets remain about the same, which is fine, but you'll see a drastic increase in the warnings from last year to this year. That's part of my campaign. Officers have responded very well to this. And what I've tried to do is in 2024, the ratio of tickets to warnings were about 1 to 1.5. 1 ticket to 1.5 warnings issued. This year, it's up to over 1 to 3, which is a number I like to see. That's a ratio that I want to see because not just issuing the citations, but continuing to give a high number of warning citations and traffic stops. It continues with my idea that, it's not just about tickets, it's about compliance. And if we can issue warnings and get compliance, that's a better case for all involved. I will say that I've talked with my officers, and most of the citations that are issued by far are speeding. So we do have a lot of speeding in here which is why we're going to continue with this campaign. And the other thing that in speaking with the officers is that the far majority of property owners and full-time residents here are not the victims of most of this, which is good to know. Most of our people are being stopped or people that are coming in aren't familiar with here, and even some contractors, but the number of contractors is going down. So I think we're sending a message, and this is all about, again, this is about safety. A lot of bicycles, a lot of walkers, a lot of people on the roads the chairman talked about, with no trails. So we really want to keep this going and keep slowing people down for the safety of everyone that comes into Sea Pines for the year and throughout. All right. We're going to just talk real briefly. I know we like to see these numbers here. The next 4 slides, what I'm going to do is just talk about some of the gate numbers. And all of them will be just for the first quarter. It's not our busy time of year, but it's kind of an indication. We'll see at the end of the season if this was an indicator of what we'll end up seeing throughout the year. Things are just down slightly, not much. This is the total vehicles from the first quarter of 24 versus 25 of all vehicles entering Sea Pines. The total amount for the first quarter, as you can see, is almost 1 million vehicles, which is, I think, pretty much on pace. They're down a little bit from last year. The pay lane, again, our property owner's lane or pass lane, that is by far the heaviest. It's about 60%. And then the Ocean Gate numbers. Steph, we can roll on in to get the idea. This is the gate pass volume for the passes that we sell, the total numbers on the left. And then as you can see, the daily visitor, daily commercial, and then others. Again, 24 versus 25, kind of consistent. You see down just a little bit. I'll give you a second to look those. Now, short-term rental, you can go ahead, Steph. Short-term rental passes, the total amounts there at the bottom, 24 versus 25. And then the pass office versus what we do at the gates for the short-term rental passes. Again, extremely consistent with what we've seen with the total number of vehicles versus the gate volume versus this. So primarily just showing you these numbers to show what they actually are, but more importantly, just show a correlation, how everything seems to be pretty consistent, which is good. That means I think our counting and our accuracy is very high on this. And we can zip into the last one, Steph. This is our annual decal sales. These are actually, if you look at these are pretty consistent, which means we're doing more with the annual decals, a little more consistent than we are with everything else. And this just gives you a number of, again, this was just the first quarter for 24 versus 25. I'll let you look at those for just a second. Okay, Steph, I think, does that do our slides? All right, great. First of all, has anybody got any questions about those things that I just kind of zipped right through?
Yeah, I would think that the one on the speed control, I think that would make a communications piece. I've been getting some emails and comments from some people on various streets that, about speed, and I think it'd be worthwhile to show what your experience in the increase is and warnings and things over the past year that you're more active in doing that. Some type of piece. So maybe y'all consider you and Stephanie getting together and run it by Sam and see if there's something worthwhile to put out in the community on that.
I think it's a terrific idea. Again, it's all about, you and I agree, it's all about education and compliance. That's what we're trying to get out. We just want everybody to slow down. But by looking at those numbers, it shows you that we do have that. It's an issue and we're going to stay on top of it.
Secondly, I want to compliment your officers. I was away and my water utility app showed I had a leak. And I have an inside cutoff valve, so I figured it was in the irrigation system. So I called, I got Officer Mackey, I guess, at the dispatch.
Yes,
she sent a couple officers around. I watched them on the cameras go around completely the house, look in the house, look for water. I didn't find anything, but I appreciate the fact that they did what they did and as thorough as they went. So I don't know the name of those two officers that went. But I want to compliment him because that was a service that I'm sure that you do for alarms and things like that for property owners. And I experienced it and I appreciated it.
Well, that's good to hear. And those are a lot of the things, when we have brief amount of time for these presentations, it's just enough to hit some of the highlights and some of the more important things. However, those are the kind of things that they do on a daily basis for all of the people here in Sea Pines, and that I appreciate you pointing that out. I know they appreciate it, and we got a good crew that really have bought into Sea Pines and the whole idea that we really want to provide a great experience for property owners and also though for everyone coming here to visit. A few last words I got are our trolley started this past Saturday, so it's up and running. I've added 3 more new security vehicles to the fleet. They're in the process of being upfitted at this point, so they will be out there shortly. We're fully staffed, and we are, prepared to buith with patrol and the gates. We're staffed and we're ready to go for the new year. It'd be interesting to see, even though those numbers were down, it seems like it's been extremely busy already. So we'll see how the season goes. We're looking forward to it, and we're prepared and ready to go.
Yeah, someone calls in because they've got raccoons running around in their food and stuff. Is that anything that you do on your end?
Well, I didn't hear that first part of that, Mr. Chairman.
If anybody has problems with raccoons, like they get in their food and stuff like that, is that anything you do on your end, your people do?
Yes, sir, we do. We have all of our officers are involved to a degree, but we have a wildlife officer, and we will do things if there's a continued problem, let's say with armadillos or raccoons, and it's a problem where that looks like they've nested or dug holes or have a family there. We will absolutely come out, respond, set traps. It's a service that we provide for our property owners in here. And then anytime we have issues a lot of times with that raccoon in a pool, gators in pools, our officers respond to all that and they will take care of it. They're all most of them are pretty well experienced with it, and we do handle all those things. So all people have to do is call us, and we will come out, and one way or another, we will take care of it for you.
Good. Thank you, Joe.
Okay.
No more questions. We'll go to traffic, and first thing will be gates and signage. Cliff, for you, there you are.
Yep, I'm here. Yeah, I think, we've got a good update from Victoria earlier on the cashless option at the gate, which is great. It's very exciting, and I'm glad to see the use is growing and continuing to plan to continue to grow. And as we reported last, there's been some improvements to the visibility of the signage. And as you've seen, we put a sample up, and then we've continued to roll that format out and dressing it up in a more permanent fashion. So I think that's been a big help. And I think the plan will be to continue to do that. And from a long-term perspective, the circle, Tom Sharp is doing a fantastic job of just pushing to get some traction. And I do think in the last couple of months, we have gained a lot more traction than we've had, and with Sam's help as well with the state. As I reported previously, the town has committed to assisting in any way that they can. The state DOT has committed to taking a leadership role in the project. And, as we've said before, all things start with funding, and Senator Davis has committed to finding the funds. So all of that is in the works. It's a little bit, slower than I think we wished it would be, but that's the process. And that's the update.
Right. I'll be very happy when Senator Davis says, I have found the funds for you.
It'd be a great day.
Yes, it would be. Any questions of Cliff? Okay, treasurer's report. Leanne, you've got a number of things. I'll just let you start off and go down.
Great. Thank you. And Stephanie, if you could move to the next slide, please. So I do have a number of items to go through. A couple of items require action. I wanted to thank the staff for the time and effort put into getting ready for all the board meetings and committee meetings. We seem to meet more often than what's on the schedule, so I do appreciate all the committed time. So we're going to cover a number of items, as you see on this slide. Some are repetitive to the annual meeting presentation, but very important to get out there and give you updates, not only to close out 2024, but to also get us started into 2025. So if we move to the next item, the independent audit was completed for the year ended 2024. The final audited statements are available on the website. We had no audited adjustments or errors and no internal control issues. We have included in the board materials the required communications issued by the auditors. A subcommittee of the Finance Committee met with the auditors on April 25th and heard the results. And I thank you to the volunteers of that subcommittee who sat in on yet another extra meeting. And many thanks to the staff for the excellent outcomes of the audit. So moving on to talk about the audited statements, the information, as I mentioned, is available on the website. The final audited statements were issued on May 1st. And you'll see that I've highlighted a few items relative to the balance sheet, mainly a very consistent, strong cash and investments position, pretty consistent collections year to year. We continue to not have any debt outstanding, and we have maintained the capital reserves as mandated by the board policies. I do note, and I'm sure you've heard before, that an updated capital reserve study will be performed in the latter part of 2025. On the next slide, I put together some trends and operations just from the budget to actual for 2024 and 2023 actual. Move to the next page, I've actually outlined some highlights. And as we've all understood, rental registration fees have been in effect for 2 years through 2024. The commercial and residential assessments are up a little bit, as was the infrastructure assessments, primarily due to the inflationary increase that were allowed. The overall revenue was up a small amount from 23 to 24, but the mix, so the components within the total, did have some ups and downs. And I wanted to remind the community and the board that about a third of our revenues are generated by gate entry and permit fees, something that no other community is entitled to or has access to. So we really see a lot of that funding come through having all the guests and visitors come through the gate. You move to the next slide. This is information that is collected on the gate fees and giving you some data on what Joe has just gone into on the about 4 million vehicles that go through the gates. He mentioned about 60% of them go through the property owner lane. I think to focus on the gate fees, if you look at the chart, what's not depicted there is that sometime in 2020, the gate fee went from $8 to $9 a vehicle. And I think what I would take away from this chart is that the short-term rental passes sold are about the same number in 23 and 24, but the daily gate passes were actually lower in 24. I'm going to talk more about that in our 25 discussion, but we are monitoring that very closely. On the next slide, I have some points about expense trends, and I think it's important to know that we have been investing in several areas of operations in the maintenance areas to really upgrade the maintenance community-wide maintenance. And you saw in Jared's slides just where all those efforts are being conducted. Safety and security, we have a large number of armed personnel, and insurance costs associated with those type of personnel has increased quite a bit. So we saw that in the increase in 2024. And as you may recall, we invested in the salary for the retention of those certain employees, as well as the attraction of qualified candidates. And then in the general administrative, we saw increases in insurance premiums for all types of insurance in 2024. In the 2024 major repairs and replacements category, the next slide delineates the major projects that were completed or the amounts expended on the portion of those projects. And there's about 7.5 million, which is the second line to the last in the middle under actual expenditures. This was significantly higher than in 2023 as planned, but we didn't quite complete everything that we had hoped to. So we rolled forward a certain amount into the 2025 budget, and that was approved previously. Just to mention the financial statement disclosures in the audited statements were very consistent year over year. And if you're an accounting geek, you can go read the statements, and if you have any questions or comments, let us know. Are there any questions from the board on the audited statements that were part of the materials or what I've presented? Okay, if not, I am going to make a motion that the Sea Pines Community Associates Board of Directors, as recommended by the Executive Committee, accepts the Sea Pines CSA audited financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2024 as presented.
Is there a second? Seconded. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay. You want to go to the next item?
Yeah. So the next slide, Stephanie is reporting on critical infrastructure. So this is a report that should look familiar to those that saw the reporting back in November. We are holding ourselves accountable to reporting hopefully every quarter on the critical infrastructure amounts presented in the referendum. And then on this particular slide, this is the revenue collected under the critical infrastructure revenue program, as well as the operating revenue assigned to the infrastructure projects. So the total through 2024, as far as revenue, is about 18.4 million. You move to the next page. This is a summary, excuse the small font, but this is where the funds have been expended through 2024. And what I would take away from this are that there's been 4 roughly 4 major projects, 2 very major, North Sea Pines Drive, South Sea Pines Drive, and then the first portion of Lighthouse Lane, and then a whole bunch of ditch dredging and stabilization. Those pieces represent about 12 million of what's presented here. And then the smaller pieces funded through operations is about 5.7. Totaling project expenditures is 17.7, which is about 2/3 down the page under actual total costs. And the net result is a $742,000 positive fund balance at the end of 2024. So collections exceeded expenditures through 2024. That is quickly going to shift. So next up, I'm going to just talk a little bit about the first quarter financial statements that were in the board package. The finance committee met recently and went through the financial statements through March 31st. We have a revenue recognition item in there, which is really more focusing on the ratable recognition of the revenue in our interim financial statements. Does not impact the year-end financial statements, but it's going to allow us to better match revenues allocated 1/12 over each month with the expenses, thereby not inflating the undesignated fund balance during the middle of the year. The executive committee recommends approval to the board. Are there any questions on the March 31st financial statements?
Any questions? Is there a motion?
I will make the motion. Sea Pines Community Service Associates Board of Directors, as recommended to the Finance Committee, by the Executive Committee, accepts the Sea Pines CSA financial statements year-to-date March 31st, 2025 as presented.
Is there a second? There's a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move for a vote. All in favor? Raise your hand, say aye, do whatever.
Aye.
Okay. All right.
Okay, next slide. This is the critical infrastructure estimated collections and spending recap through 2028. So I just finished talking about through 2024. We have an amended budget for 2025, and management has been working on a 3-year capital plan, which is presented below. So this page, again, has the revenue piece. This is the collections related to the infrastructure assessment, plus the amount of operating revenue that's being set aside from the budget to fund infrastructure items. So you'll see that we are investing significant amounts of money in infrastructure, both are not only in 2025, but in the next 3 years. So that's the collections. If we move to the next page, this is the really important part, and again, I apologize for the size of the font. This spreadsheet represents the middle column is the referendum projects, and then in 2025, where management has allocated the priorities of the projects relative to the dollars to be spent. And again, we've heard about Lighthouse Lane being a very significant piece of those, as well as getting started on the Otter Lane, Ivy Road area. Now, what's important to really focus on is that management has taken the opportunity to look at the priority of the projects over the next 3 years and has done some estimation for those projects using information collected from the construction vendors, as well as working on engineering studies to refine those estimates. A big topic of conversation is highlighted at the bottom of the spreadsheet. And when you see brackets around numbers, in this instance, it means that we are spending in excess of the collected amounts of money. So there are aggregate balances at the end of 2025. We have gone from a $742,000 fund balance that's positive to about $1 million deficit for this program only. And then that grows over the next couple of years and then reverses. So I wanted to read a statement from the Finance Committee because this particular spreadsheet is an extremely critical assessment of where management feels will be relative to the spending and the collections. And the Finance Committee convened on May 13th to thoroughly discuss the infrastructure and operating funding of these projects. The major repair and replacement spending for 2025 had been previously approved by the board as part of the 2025 budget process. Management has since been developing a 3-year capital plan to establish the priorities and cost estimates. It is anticipated that spending in 2025 will result in the infrastructure fund balance moving into a deficit position, with this trend expected to continue in 26 and 27. The slide I just presented represents these rolling balances. All amounts are estimations, with the pace of construction being critical to these assumptions. As stewards of the collected and maintained funds, the Finance Committee deliberated on the infrastructure spending exceeding collections in 2025 onwards. Concerns were raised that given the uncertainty about government assistance in the event of a disaster, such as hurricane causing material damage, CSA should exercise extra caution regarding the non-essential use of contingency funds. Consideration was given to requesting a policy exception from the board to permit deficit spending on infrastructure for several reasons. At this point, the Finance Committee makes the following recommendations. The first, to conduct continued robust and timely monitoring of the infrastructure and operating budgets to assess project cash flows related to spending. As 2.3 million or 26% of the infrastructure MNR spending of 8.7 million comes from the operating budget. The second is to implement guardrails to ensure board policies are not inadvertently violated. Maintenance of the required levels of undesignated emergency and capital replacement funds under board policies. The third is to actively explore and innovate new ideas, opportunities to generate potential revenue-seeking ideas in expanding the Sea Pines brand. And lastly, preparation by management of an alternative and timely Plan B to reprioritize projects, including if warranted, the delay of certain projects, allowing a reforecast that focused on spending to equal funding if adjustments needed to be made. In addition to our regularly scheduled meetings, the Finance Committee will reconvene in mid to late July to review the effectiveness of management's monitoring and assessment of the current results of operations, anticipated infrastructure spending versus collections, and Plan B is noted above, and subsequently report to the Executive Committee and the board. It is important to note that the current infrastructure plan does not include the gate reconfiguration or necessary investments in technology. These items are dependent in part on the state's review, assessment and potential reconfiguration of the traffic patterns which impact Sea Pines. I believe this is a sound plan and that such comprehensive monitoring will be effective. I will make this statement from the Finance Committee available to the full board, as obviously I read it. But we all felt that it was really important to address and highlight these items for the entire board and the community. So moving on to the next slide, what's next? The capital plan that's been presented includes, as I mentioned, Lighthouse Lane and Otter Road and Fawn Lane projects. Greenwood Drive is the next one up. And the status on the spending plan, as I mentioned, will be closely monitored. I also wanted to thank the Finance Committee volunteers who, as I mentioned, meet more regularly than the published meetings on the website. We have workshops, multiple workshops, and we all took, or most of us took, a trolley tour to actually take a look at what areas most need the infrastructure spending and what areas had been completed and what a difference those investments have made. As I mentioned, we are very committed as a finance executive committee and the board to be committed to monitoring the results and making sure that we share the results with the community. So that will end my report.
Are there any questions? Comments? That was a lot there, so,
I do have a comment, David.
okay.
I want to thank Leanne and the Finance Committee for the engagement they've had with the staff in developing this. I think this has been a very healthy process for us as we look to the future and we make sure that we're doing what needs to be done for this community, both with infrastructure in the ground and the finances that pay for it. And so I have enjoyed the engagement and continue to learn, even at my ripe old age of 55, from a lot of very, very fine and intelligent folks on that committee. It's been a fun group and a fun process. And it really does set forth a very sound path forward for us to deal with issues as they arise for the capital spending.
It's very beneficial for me to be there and listen to the ongoing comments too. So I think it's an educational thing. If any of you want to join in, just to hear what's going on when they meet.
And it's not just accounting folks on the committee. I mean, we have a nice blend of different backgrounds and everybody has an opportunity and does contribute. So that's why we end up with such, a level of information that we appreciate, because it is a collaborative effort.
It is a very strong committee.
Unfinished business, I have none. Does anybody have any unfinished business they need to take up?
Sandra, do you have any? We're good?
We're good.
Okay.
Okay, on new business, we have the approval of the community standards rules regulations. There was a draft submitted to you. I assume you've all looked at the draft. It applies to ground cover. I can read the resolution. It's resolution 12A for approval. Resolved, Community Service Associates, Inc. Board of Directors, as recommended by the Executive Committee, approves amendments to the SPCSA Community Standards Rules and Regulations, May 20th, 2025 draft, page 4, section 7, landscaping maintenance, developed property rule 3.4 to read, quote, ground cover such as mulch, pine straw shall be applied periodically to maintain a neat, clean appearance. Ground, and for example, dirt shall not be left exposed without landscaping on ground cover. Ground cover materials not fully distributed within 3 weeks of delivery, and the property may be considered vegetation debris as presented. Is it, you want to add to
So we're adding the fallen leaves are permitted as landscaping ground cover, but shall be maintained in a neat and clean appearance. So just a reminder to the board that as we went through the loam rules, one of the rules we've had sort of percolate to the surface is a lot of areas are designed to be left in their natural state. And so there are a number of homeowners, property owners that have been using fallen leaves and pine needles and those things and leaving the vegetated areas in a neat but natural state. Well, that wasn't allowed under the previous rules. And so, and I would also add, this gives us plenty of flexibility. Again, our folks are there to make sure that things are proper in appearance. This expands that, allows us to do that. So I'd ask the board for the recommendation on that.
So the motion needs to be amended to speak to the fallen leaves as permitted and the ground cover.
Yes.
Yes, so that, Sandra, if you could amend the motion, please.
Yeah, because it didn't say that.
Yeah. It's in the verbiage that was distributed just.
But, okay.
But not in the motion.
Yep,
Okay,
I'll make the motion.
and I'll second the motion. Any discussion? And all in favor, raise your hand, say aye, whichever. Okay, passes unanimously, here no objection. The next item of unfinished business is going to be to ratify an encroachment agreement on Slick Black Turn, and then there's another one on 15 Black Turn, and I think there's going to be two different explanations. Sam, why don't you?
So 6 Black Turn, we had a property owner who put a hardscape encroachment very recently into our open space. And we're having that property owner remove that hardscape. We are allowing some of the softscape work that they did to stay because it actually helps CSA because it's area that we don't have to maintain. But the hardscape had to come out, and the property owner is doing that. So this encroachment ratifies that they can do the softscape work in the area, but the hardscape is coming out. So that's 6 Black Turn.
And you should have all seen that and actually voted on it. Any questions on it? Are all in favor of ratifying it? Raise your hand, please. Any opposed? Okay. The next one's a little different. Sam, you want to take that one?
Happy to do that. So this is 15 Black Turn. Just a little bit of history from a CSA perspective and dealing with encroachments. On occasion, when we're having properties transferred, we run across encroachments and violations that have occurred where things have been done on CSA open space. And they're generally minor things, but they've been done in years gone by. And they were things that were approved in the field in passing, but they have a significant impact on the property. And the board's position, and it's a very appropriate one, is we do not want hardscape in our open space. But on occasion, we have a situation where hardscape has been placed there inadvertently, and that hardscape needs to remain until the situation can be rectified in the future, and when it's an appropriate rectification. And this is one of those cases at 15 Black Turn. This home was built many, many years ago. There was a very small piece of the driveway that encroaches on CSA open space. As a matter of fact, if you were there, you wouldn't even know it was open space. But it is as it relates to deed. And so when they had the survey done, they realized that this encroachment that had been there for 25 or 30 years was on CSA open space. Unfortunately, there's no way to rectify that situation without the encroachment, without really taking the house down to make a major modification on the property. So what we agree with the property owner is that we'll allow this encroachment to remain. We're calling it a temporary encroachment upon CSA open space. But when the day comes and there's significant major modifications and this encroachment can be removed in an appropriate way, that's when this encroachment will go away and will terminate. So this encroachment allows the property owners to move forward with the transfer of sale but also protects CSA. And again, this is not one of those encroachments. We do have encroachments on occasion that are done more recently and with some intentionality. This is not one of those. This is one of those that was done, I really believe, unbeknownst to the property owner many years ago. So that's why our recommendation to the board is that we adopt this temporary non-conforming encroachment with board policy.
Yep, everybody understand this is non-conforming. It's different from what we do, but it's temporary. Otherwise, we basically destroy the value of the house presently and prevent the sale. So it's part of the accommodation let the sale go through, and looking forward to it being remedied in the future. Anybody have any questions, objections? Then all in favor, raise your hands. Okay, any opposed? Right side.
Just thank the board, dealing with the encroachments on CSA open space and utilities and easements. That's one of the challenges we have and each one is unique. So thanks to the board for giving us the flexibility we need to make things move ahead in a line for everybody involved.
On the last one, you'd actually have to go there to understand it, but it is impossible to get the cars into the garage with the way the house is located. Unless anyone has anything else, we'll bring it to adjournment. I see we have one question. So we can just remain on that, but let's move to adjourn. I'll move to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, raise your hands. Any opposed? Anybody want to be in session? We have one question from Sarah Everson, and she said it's a follow-up to a question in the annual meeting about pictures of property owner ID cards being accepted in the community. She said she submitted a question at the last meeting that was not answered. Are photos of C-Pine CSA owners cards accepted? I recently tried to use a photo of the park at Heritage Shuttle Lot and was told it was not accepted. First, I don't remember the question, but the question is a legitimate question.
I do remember the question.
Okay,
And the policy is not to accept the photos of, but on occasion, an officer will allow a photo. But since we had Miss Eggleston's question, what I've tasked the team with doing, because many things are moving to a digital wallet, sort of electronic tools, everybody carries a cell phone. Many people don't even carry credit cards anymore or debit cards. And so we're going to be looking for ways to move add that option as a sort of a digital wallet tool to your cell phone, so that the photo or the digital wallet piece of the property owner ID card will be accepted in the future. So that's something we just as a team talked about after we got our question last time.
okay, well, good. And if I come in and I've got a rental car and I have my property owner's card, I can still get in the gate?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's that she had a picture of it and there's no way to know it's authenticated.
Right, that it's a photo.
Right, so that's looking into how do you authenticate, within a wallet would be good.
Okay.
And we think that's the ultimate solution to this is moving those to
We're
digital wallet.
doing more things like that. Anybody have anything else? Stephanie, were there any other questions?
No, sir, no further questions.
Okay, well, with that, we've already adjourned. Everybody go have a good afternoon, and we will be talking with you and seeing you later on. Thank you.
Thank y'all very much.